You cannot go back to the original seller and say, you sold me a sick bird because you did not follow the steps to make sure that it wasn't sick to begin with.
Who's got chickens? Who's got quail? Who's got hatch rates off the scale? From brooders, coops, and mystery birds. You're listening to Poultry Nerds, talking eggs and talking birds. Science stories, tips you've heard. Welcome to the Poultry Nerds.
Today, we're talking about what actually separates a beginner from an experienced person that everyone recommends. Yeah.
Because everybody wants premium birds, premium
So
eggs.
today, I think the post was done originally yesterday, but I read it today. They were talking about prices for a dozen hatching eggs. And somebody says, I want to know what kind of job people have that pay $300 for a dozen of hatching eggs. But I wanted to be like the same job that every Tom, Dick, and Harry has that has something that they want. If you have something that's special, which would be like a top breeder with exceptional birds, and people want, they will pay for it. It don't matter if they work at McDonald's. They'll figure out a way.
Yep, it's a true statement.
Everybody wants Primo.
It's called value. It's valuable to somebody, so they will pay for it.
And I look at it like this, if let's say you wanted to work with Orpingtons, the buff variety, would I go to Tractor Supply and get me some buffs and cull heavily and spend the next to 10 years probably to get what I need? What I should have? Or do I cut off absolute minimum of 5 years worth of feed bills, time, effort, frustration, and just pay the money?
You're paying the money either way.
If you can go back to a podcast that we did a while back where we actually did a podcast on how to start, and we compared some of the prices of starting with expensive hatching eggs, a started trio or pair, and so on and so forth. And I think started birds was a great amount less expensive than a $300 dozen of eggs.
Yes, if you can get chicks out of those eggs. And that's where the experienced seller comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just because somebody's charging high prices doesn't mean that those eggs are worth those high prices. And
No.
just because somebody doesn't have a fancy website and sells their eggs cheap doesn't mean they're not worth 10 times that.
Yeah, I've also learned that because I have seen people that don't know their rear end from a hole in the ground, but they've got some birds from somebody and they think that they're still the same thing. So well, I'm just $250 a dozen. And people think, okay, well, he got his birds or she got her birds from so and so 5 years ago. And that's why they're cheaper, even though they're that much than when you get them directly from so and so. Well, number one, I hate to say it, but 30 days after a bird leaves the farm, it's no longer the original owner's bird because they ain't feeding it the same. It ain't being cared for the same. Ain't none of it the same.
So there's a couple things I would like to say about this topic before we actually get into the topic. There are some big personalities on social media who have birds that they order in the fall from big name hatcheries. And those birds are then laying by early spring, early winter. And then they sell hatching eggs for premium pricing because they have a big following.
We know a few of those.
We do know of a few of those people. I shake my head because there's nothing technically wrong with that. If you go back far enough, you'll see that they have been honest about what they're doing. The problem is that people only see the number of followers that a person has and assumes that the birds are worth their salt.
Now, while we're on that subject, remind me again how you spell. I was taught that at a very young age, and now I'm knocking on 50, and I haven't seen too many times where that's actually been wrong.
So there are,
Use your brain.
once you have settled, if you want to really breed, now maybe a bunch of you listening don't even care, but those of you that really want to get to the nitty gritty, the details, and really track and understand your breed and make it better and create something because you love it, not because it commands a larger price tag, you will find most of the long-term breeders probably aren't even on social media.
Or if they are, like, their most recent post is probably some funny, ain't got
Hey,
jack
chicken.
chicken.
And then they don't have fancy websites, they don't have big followings, they don't they're gonna have grandkids, they're gonna have those are the people that you need to talk to, okay?
There's
So,
actually one that comes to mind,
I
and
have
you would
several.
not know this particular person, you would not know that they were even a chicken person if you do not pay very close attention to the building and the way it's laid out in their is that your whatever the poster thing is behind your picture on your social media, like a header page or something?
Mm.
Yeah, because they just like you said, grandkids, not even needing pictures of themselves. But this person is, I have been told by a couple people, one of the best breeders of that person's particular breed of chicken that they work with.
And we also see those older people who have spectacular birds just be bullied into nothingness out of the social media personalities. We I have one that comes to mind, she actually has sold out now, and I haven't even seen her on social in a long time. Of course, I'm pretty much off. I'm over it. So I'm pretty much off of it. So you might actually get into the topic now that we're getting off our soap.
You know what? Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
So, we're going to be talking about finding a responsible breeder that you actually want to buy from. So, some things that you can look for if they have a website would be clear product descriptions, nothing really vague, really wordy. I've seen some that say, I have the best ever farrow hatching eggs. Well, that's pretty generic. Honest availability, they're giving you their timelines, they're honest about when they can ship, how far behind they are, not behind. There's clear shipping windows. A realistic hatch rate language, that would be like hatch rate guarantees. There are some people out there who do hatch rate guarantees. I'm not saying that what they're doing isn't right because the person that's coming to mind that does it, he ships so many extra eggs that you're gonna get at least that many to hatch. So
Mhm.
that's one way to make sure that somebody gets what they order, and I find that perfectly respectable. He's wanting to make sure his customers get what they're paying for.
Mhm.
But if somebody says, I 100% fertility and my hands are off once it leaves my possession. I mean, I'm honestly just tired of hearing that. It's not an acceptable sentence in my book, honestly.
I mean, I have quail and hatching my own, I don't have 100%.
How am I going to say this? Well, I guess we're not really politically correct on here, so I'm just going to say it. If I know my fertility, let's just talk about my turkeys for a second, because I actually got to ship quite a few turkey eggs this year before they went broody. I knew that they were running right around 80% fertility. So that's 1 in 5 is not going to be fertile, right? So if somebody ordered 6 eggs, I shipped them 8. So 80% would be fertile and get what they bought, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
yeah.
So I shipped extra eggs to make sure that they got it, that I knew that what they ordered was gonna be fertile. Does that make sense? Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's above and beyond to me because there's a lot of folks out there that charge a very handy premium and they don't do any extras.
So that is a question to ask somebody. I had somebody reach out to me in the last month. The conversation was basically a month long, and she had ordered $300 eggs,
Hmm?
and she was shipped 12 eggs in an egg carton in a box.
All right, so let me tell you this.
And I sent you pictures. I'm not lying, am I?
No, I am guilty of doing very expensive eggs. That happened to me. I did that. But let me tell you how this guy shipped them. I thought I was going to get some eggs. maybe in foam, maybe this, maybe that, all kinds of different things. So I get a phone call from the post office and I'm like, "Hey, I haven't ordered anything lately." And she says, well, it has your name and your number on it and it's in a box, but I don't hear any noises." And I said, "What? Yeah, it's in a box like you would ship a live bird in, but I don't hear noises. I ordered a dozen eggs." So the curiosity in me goes to the post office to see what I've got. And this man packaged them very well and put them in a live shipper box and shipped them that way. And I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of impressed because postal service thought it was a live animal. So they didn't throw it across the floor or, sometimes when you get the box, it looks like they played soccer with it. Didn't do that. Looked great.
Technically, they are a live animal.
Well, I mean, yeah, but people will take the boxes and they will, put the stickers on it. Well, I know a chick that works at the post office, and I'm like, "Do y'all" she said, "Look, no, and if we see that and we're in the mood, we might mess with it even more." For real?
Did you have a good hatch rate?
I did. I ordered a dozen. I got 15 and 14 hatched.
Wow. How were they shipped in foam?
No,
Oh,
they were individually bubble wrapped inside of bubble wrap bag and a ridiculous amount of packing peanuts inside the live chicken box.
all right. Okay.
But that ain't what we're gonna talk about today either.
No, it isn't. So, shipping and replacement policies. So, always ask the person or have make sure that it's on their website or in their product description exactly how they package. I personally wouldn't buy $300 eggs in an egg carton. That's not something I would do.
Mm,
Replacement policies. That's a source of contention with the breeder population. Replacements. So in my case, if a box of eggs is completely smashed, I just replace them because there's nothing the customer could have done to stop that from happening.
mm.
Now, you can't really file claims anymore. That is not
They've made
something,
that.
yeah, we can't do that anymore.
There's so many ifs and that's and those, and it's not worth it for the time that it would take to properly document for either party to even do it.
No. And so you need to know just what that policy is up front. It's not necessarily a good or bad answer. It's just something that you need to know. You need to take responsibility for it. And if
Yeah.
it's clearly marked and you are okay with it, then don't go back on the breeder later because it didn't work in your favor. You knew the risks going into it. Current photos of actual stock. I recently, and actually, I think you sent me the link, saw a website. The entire website was there
I mean, I
wasn't
don't think
in
those.
the I think you had to find who put out the website.
Well, yeah,
You
we did have to search for it to see who owned it pretty
like
extensively.
nothing on it was real.
Yeah, the whole site
So
was a total crock. But what kills me is there's people that was actually recommending to buy the stuff from this person. And people that I have shook their hands have actually are friends with this person. And the website's total BS.
yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
thought it was a scam site.
So check the photos. Now, keep in mind, like if you were to say go to my page, the background of some pictures might be blurred or fixed, but that's only because I held the bird up and the bird looked really good in my hand. So it was a really good picture, except the big cobweb behind it maybe wasn't so pretty. Okay.
But that's different.
I'm
I
just,
really think that's different to me.
But you need an explanation of why maybe you blurred out the cobweb, you know? So you were just holding it up just to look at it and took a picture of it, and it turned out to be a really good picture, except for what was behind it. Contact information, you always wanna know who you're dealing with. I actually looked at a website today. Somebody commented on something, and I had their link and clicked on it. Have no idea where they are. Don't know their name, don't know anything about them. You need to make sure that that information is on there because you're gonna wanna look and see if they're NPIP just to make sure it's a real person. And in my case, my NPIP is in my name, my personal name, but I sell under Front Roost. I mean, is your NPIP in your name or the farm name?
I don't know.
But see, that's my point.
I
You
mean,
actually made my
I got my
point.
card on a picture of my card on my phone.
You actually made my point. And then we know somebody up north, and the NPIP, the breeder uses a PO box in the next town over because she doesn't want anybody to know where she lives. So you just have to be aware of what you're looking for. We're not saying necessarily something is right or wrong so much as you need to know that those things happen and take that into consideration when you make your decision.
And look, I'm gonna say this about the whole NPIP thing. We're saying to check that just to see if the person's legit or as a method. But just because somebody's doesn't mean their place is clean unless they're in Oklahoma. And it doesn't mean anything beyond at the time and date those birds were tested, they did not have a couple of different diseases.
We
And I
also
say that about Oklahoma because Oklahoma actually, they look at your facilities as well. And a couple of other states were starting to do that too. And if your facilities are not up to their standard, it don't matter how healthy your birds are, they will say, "No, you need to fix this."
And then there's other states that don't have NPIP. I don't think Nevada has it, Alaska didn't have it. And then there are some states that you can have this flock NPIP and this one not.
Alabama,
South Carolina. Tennessee is not like that. I have to have all
like
my birds tested.
well, at a location. So, like, if I had 2 different physical farms and I just wanted to get ones at one farm certified, let's say where my production birds are, but not where my breed flock was, because there are 2 physically different places, I don't have to.
We know somebody in South Carolina, and she said that she has some birds NPIP, but on the other side of the farm, they're not.
Because South Carolina, they actually put a band on the bird when they
Oh,
test it.
wow.
I have a friend of mine that's a tester, and, every time he starts getting low on supplies, he just calls the lady state vet's office, and they'll send him the chemical, the testing supplies, and the bands, and yeah,
Wow.
in South Carolina, if you're a game fowl person and you've been caught doing things that you shouldn't, they will spare the birds that have been tested because they have to put them, when they take them and do all that crap, they got to put them with other birds, and they don't want birds that haven't been tested done. I'm like, how do they know? Because we have to put a dang band on. Like,
Wow.
really?
All NPIP will do at bare minimum is tell you that, yes, this is a real person who had birds on their property on that given day. That would be the bare minimum
Yep, they're
uh,
physically there. Somebody showed up. Yeah, that's it.
on that day. Educational support before the purchase, if they'll help you what to do with hatching them, things that might be particular to that line, special care maybe after they're hatched, just anything, if somebody's open and willing to help, that's what we're talking about.
'Cause some folks, you can ask them questions all day long and they won't answer anything. Other people will help you with everything.
Okay, some things that buyers can't see. You can't see what we're doing behind the scenes with selection, our record keeping, our fertility rates. You basically have to take our word for it. What we're feeding them. I mean, you can always ask, and somebody who's helpful and has time to answer will answer them. Now, I'm gonna break off here for just a second. I'm not even saying most, some breeders offer consults, varying pricing. If a breeder is not answering your 1,000 questions before you buy, it's probably because you're one of 100 people asking 1,000 questions. And we just simply don't have time to spend on that. Like, I have somebody right now emailing me wanting to have pictures of the color of my chicken eggs. I'm not going to answer that because I don't need to, first of all, and it's not relevant right now. And so I'm
Well,
just not going to.
and also, if that person really wants to know that information, why don't they do like everybody else and just stalk your social media?
Exactly.
Because if you posted ample pictures of eggs, the color, the weight, all kinds of stuff. The information's there. You just got to find it.
So, what I'm suggesting is buy a consult, especially if you're going to invest $300 in a dozen eggs. See if the breeder offers a consult. I do, you do. We know lots of them that do. And then you can ask your thousand questions and see if you like the answers, if it's a good fit before you make the larger purchase of the birds or eggs or even to go along with the purchase, because then you would be more prepared. You know what to expect, you know where the selection goals have been, to clarify some housing if you don't know. I mean, I've been doing more consults this year than any other year I've ever done them. And it's people asking really good questions. And I really like it when the kids do it. It's so much fun. I did one
Mhm.
the other day and he asked me if his sister's loud music was going to bother his bird.
Nice.
I just thought that was so cute. So ask the questions, buy the consult because the breeder's time is worth something, right? So invest, if you're going to invest in the breeder, invest in the breeder.
I mean, especially if you're gonna spend $100 on eggs,
Right.
the thing. If you as a breeder, your goal is meat and egg production. If I want birds that will sit in my lap and talk to me and have conversations, then that might not be the breeder that I need to go with. I might need to find a breeder that does the same thing. And I promise you they exist.
Yes.
But that would be where
Nutrition.
you would go.
Ask about nutrition. What do they feed their breeders? I feed mine your feed, and I get great hatch rates and great healthy chicks. But if you're buying from somebody who just throws scratch corn out and finds eggs laying in the yard, you need to know that. Because how can they tell how old those eggs are if they go get them in the yard, right? I don't pick up my duck eggs because they're laying all over my yard because I don't know have they been there for a day or been there for a year? I don't know how long they've been there.
Yeah.
Culling decisions, culling and medications kind of go hand in hand. Culling, I'm a hard culler because you don't want gonna make enemies here. If somebody is medicating to keep their birds alive, do you really want those as breeders?
Yeah, you're gonna be stuck doing the same thing.
So somebody like us that culls really hard only has the strongest birds surviving to breeder age, which gives the offspring the best chances of survival. Biosecurity, yes, ask what their biosecurity is. I'll just leave it at that. Breeder age and condition, that's really going to be species dependent and then breed dependent, really.
Yeah.
So, like if you're talking about the Coturnix quail, I mean, the breeders might only be 3 months old up to a year, however. But if you're talking about, say, my Orpingtons, then the breeder age is going to be 1 to 3 years.
I'm gonna say this. You're talking about any chicken and somebody says their breeders are 3 to 4 months old, just disconnect,
Yeah.
hang up, whatever, because 'cause they're lying.
Yeah, you don't want pullet eggs.
They're either lying or you definitely don't want it.
Egg handling and storage. Do they collect regularly, keep them stored in a cool spot? Or do they just leave them in the nest box until there's enough out there and then they grab them? You don't want that. Packaging, obviously, you want to know how are they going to ship those eggs? Are they going to throw them in a carton and throw them in a box and send them out? Or are they going to take their time and package them correctly?
I will say this, if you're talking about Bob White eggs, you actually can put them in a cardboard. Because I got some one time packaged in cardboard, and I was like, "What in the holy
Yeah.
doo-doo is this?
Their shells are hard.
Are they ever?" Like, golf ball,
Yeah.
and when I hatched them out, I did have a really good hatch rate. I was like, "This is insane," and I thumped a few of them. Even though, the smell was kinda rough, I still wanted to see how hard the shell was, and it's like, these things have to be tough to get out. So, it was cool.
So, appropriate packaging, yes. Continuing education, will they be reachable? I mean, if you spend $300 on a dozen eggs, I would like to think that you could go back to that breeder and say, hey, I see this and I see this. Can you explain, do you know about any recessives in your line? When I had the coachins, I had to go back to the original breeder and get some more information when I had some stuff show up. He was very happy to answer my questions because there was no judgment involved. I just had questions. And he answered them, and then I could move on with my decision making. So, can you reach back out to that person? So, that's always important.
because some people just aren't overly forthcoming with information. But that's
Okay.
all those are green flags.
Yes.
When they're specific, they lay things out. If you ask somebody about a policy that don't even have a website, but they say, "This is my policy," and they say it very definitively with confidence, they've said it quite a few times, so it is what it's gonna be.
And it's okay to say that it's not a good fit. If you call a breeder, let's just go back to the $300 eggs for a second. If you went to that breeder and you said, "Hey, I'm looking for black homozygous blackbirds," and he said, mine are heterozygous, they could have some blue in them or something. It may not be a good fit. You could just say, "Okay, well, thank you for being honest and have a great day."
Mhm.
Um, you don't buy them and then get angry because recessives show up because he was honest. So
But, yeah, there's keyboard warriors that'll do that, and they will blast you.
and just like the question, like the email I have now, there's more to the email than just send me pictures of your eggs, but I'm not going to answer it because it's a problem waiting to happen, and I'm not going to answer it just from the other information in the email. So it's not a good fit, and that's okay on both sides to just let things lie and move on. You also wanna always ask selection points because you need to know going forward if the birds are appropriate for you. So, like, go back to your first example of Tractor Supply Buff Orpingtons or my Buff Orpingtons. Those are very different creatures. It's like saying a silky and a turkey.
Yeah.
So, when you like, I had somebody email me over the weekend, they wanted to buy a substantial amount of Buff Orpingtons. I knew when he said that in his mind he had utility grade because you can't buy a large quantity of standard bred Orpingtons.
You can.
Well, I don't know how because first of all,
Um,
fertility isn't the best.
but if you go to the right breeder, you can buy a substantial amount.
Like, you better bring a hefty wallet with you.
I was gonna say, you better bring a bag
So I did not
because
answer that person anyway because I first of all, I can't sell a substantial amount. I can't. I won't, and I don't wanna.
I was gonna say, you got a bunch,
Yeah, but I don't have a lot of breeding groups. There's a
but you
difference.
don't.
I don't wanna have.
But, for what that guy may be looking for, he could go chase down some of the yard candy.
Yeah, you can.
That would be fun to watch. You should video it.
Okay, some red flags to watch out for is guaranteed hatch claims. We talked about those.
Yeah.
People who don't want to discuss the shipping risk, that should be understood on both sides. And that's why you ask about packaging.
Yeah, and, like, this time of year, if somebody's willing to just up and ship you some eggs and it's 100 plus, I would probably run from that too.
I think it's supposed to be 115 here tomorrow, is what they're saying.
Bump that. That's
I'm,
insane.
I'm shipping baked eggs.
I was gonna say, do those come with a poached flavor? We're unable to send you hatching eggs, but we will ship you poached eggs instead.
Pressure to buy immediately. Don't fall for that. And special delivery services, that's a sign of a scammer. Do not fall for that. The only way to ship eggs is post office and UPS. I mean, I
Look, I'm
guess
gonna tell you
FedEx.
this, if somebody says, uh, "We need money for crossing the state lines, they charge fees and da 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 da," that's crock. They lying. So you don't pay an importation tax per state. But I heard people say, well, they said they needed importation tax when they crossed the state line. Send if you got money to just blow, just send it to me. Like,
And just throw it out the window.
yeah. But they fell for it.
Okay, so the breeder's responsibility. Now, we're not picking on breeders. We're just saying be honest. If you are producing backyard mixes, then say that. You can't do a 50-50 because that's not how genetics work. So you can't say something is half Orpington and half Rhode Island Red because the genetics might have fallen 99% Orpington and 1% Red. You don't know when you cross them how that's going to happen.
Like people, one set of DNA could be stronger than the other.
So just represent it honestly what you have, and that way everybody has all the information at the beginning and can make a decision for themselves.
Yeah.
Explain how you take care of your breeder flock so people can decide if that's how they would take care of them. Package and ship responsibly. Set realistic expectations. Help if something goes wrong. And always continue your education to do better the next time. And I'm going to add, we don't have it on the list here, but don't do the drama. One of the things that I see people do is they do a lot of negotiating through messages and then they post the screenshots of the messages after the fact. But there's a lot of extra information in there. Like, now, personally, I don't meet people, they just come here and pick up their stuff. But if you're going to meet somebody, that person doesn't need to know that your grandma's sick and you've got to milk the goats and pick up the kids from school and then get to soccer practice, and you don't have to write all that stuff down. It's an
Mhm.
appointment. Just say,
Yeah.
I will be at this location at 4 o'clock. I will see you there. No drama. It's a business transaction.
But on the flip side, if you ain't gonna be there by 4 o'clock, send them a message.
Yes. Don't
'Cause
ghost
you got
people.
some folks that are like me, and if you don't message me and I send you a message at 4:05 and you don't reply back by 4:08, then I'm leaving. Sorry.
Well, that's exactly why I don't meet people. I meet them at my fence. So, and even that, probably only 70% show up.
So,
That's why I'm not meeting people. If you are buying live birds and not eggs, then when you go pick them up, it is the buyer's responsibility to have a general understanding of the breed. If you were coming here to buy breast chickens, which have slate blue legs, and I handed you a chicken that was orange legged, you should have enough information that is not a breast chicken. And you look at me and say, you're crazy than a box. Sounds like David's. And walk away because I'm lying to you. That's not a breast chicken.
yeah.
You should have basic understanding of the breed you're going to pick up. And then you need to quarantine when you get home. You got to quarantine when you get home.
And I mean, even if it's a healthy bird, I would do it for at least a couple weeks
Yes.
because when you take a bird that's healthy, looks good when you pick it up, you put that thing under a couple hours of being in a box going down the road, stress, you don't know what's gonna pop out.
So the bird is being moved. It's stressed. It's being exposed to bacteria on your property that might not have been on the other property. Birds with a pecking order already established. You have completely stressed that bird. And if there is any chance it's going to get sick, it will in that situation. And then
Mhm.
you cannot go back to the original seller and say, you sold me a sick bird because you did not follow the steps to make sure that it wasn't sick to begin with. Now, if you quarantine a bird and it gets sick in quarantine, totally different conversation. But
Yeah.
if you're just going to bring it home and throw it in the backyard with the other birds, that's your bird. It's your
Good
responsibility.
luck.
And you don't go back to that seller because that's just not fair. So, what else you got? Anything else?
How do you farm?
I farm for me first, and then I share what else I have.
So, guys, instead of asking only who has the cheapest birds or eggs, ask who has standards that you understand and who still answer after the payment clears. It's important. See y'all next week.